we're up to Nun Gimel Amid Beis. We had a discussion of the Oren, the second bias. There was no Oren in the second bias. Where, therefore, did the Kohen Gadol go ahead and put the Ketores? It says they put it. It was an Evan Hashasiyah from the Bim Harishonim, David and Shmuel, and that's where he sprinkled the blood in that area near the front of the rack, or they put the Ketores, the Machta, and the Ketores on top of it. Now, the Gemara's Medayik, Mishnigna is like Ketani. It doesn't say when it was hidden, El Mishnitol, when it was taken. Mashma that the Oren was exiled. Tanan, just like Mandiyama, Kimand Amar, Oren Gadol Lebavel. Now, the Oren was exiled to Bavel. This might, if it rings the bell, it's because we had this in Masech Shkolim in Perik Vav. In Masech Shkolim, we had the same dialogue between what exactly happened to the Oren. Was it in Bavel, or the Yoshio hid it in the Beis Hamikdash? And we'll have the same achloikas here with a few pitchivkis. So Rabbi Lezer, Oren Gadol Lebavel, Shnemar, L'Chuvas Hashana Shalach HaMelech Nebuchadnezzar. He sent for Yochanya by Viehu Bavel. He brought it to Bavel. Im Chichendas Beis Hashem with the Kalim of Hakadosh Baruch Hu Mashma the Oren. Rabbi Shimon Yochai says Oren Gadol Lebavel. The Oren, in fact, was Gadol Lebavel. Shnemar Lo Yifaseh Davar. Nothing will remain. Amar Hashem. Elu Aseres Adibra Shabai. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Oren B'Mekomei Nignaz. No, it didn't go to Bavel. It was hidden in the Beis Hamikdash. Shnemar Vayiro Rashi Abadim and Hakodesh Al Pnei Advir V'Layira Chutza Vayu Sham Ad Yom Hazeh. It's there until this day. When it says Ad Yom Hazeh, it's mashma to this day. The Gemara is going to suggest maybe that's not a good enough reason, because we're going to have another place where it says Ad Yom Hazeh by Bnei Binyamin, and they're not going to be there. It says the word Sham. We want to learn from the word Sham. We're going to slug that as well. Upligi the Ula, the Amar Ula, Shol Rabbi Masya ben Choresh as Rabbi Yishur ben Yochai. So Machloek is what Rabbi Yishur ben Yochai said. So according to this first opinion, Rabbi Laza, according to the first opinion, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is saying that it was Gadol Lebavel. According to the second opinion, he's going to say it was Nignaz. Rabbi Shimon the Baraim B'Chimach Shabbalezim Malamenu Parishon Shnia Oren Gadol Lebavel Rishon Hadamar V'Yeo Bavel Mkli Beis Hashem Shnia. That's the first pasuk. Shnia. What's the second pasuk that it went to Bavel? Mikey Dechsev. It says V'Yetzim V'Sion Kol Hadara. It went out, left Sion Kol Hadara, all of its hadar, all of its beauty, its splendor. My Kol Hadara, when it says Hadara, means Chadara, the one that's kept behind the Ched Chadarim, which is of course the Oren, which is kept in Kodesh Kodashim. What did you say? What do you, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, say? So Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai answered, Shani Omer, I say Oren b'Mekomei Nignaz. So again, you see, this is not like the opinion that the Oren was in Bavel. He says, in fact, that the Oren was Nignaz. Shnema Vayiruchu Abadim, and it's there at Sham Ad Yom Hazeh. Amalei Rabbi Ula, my mashma, as a mashma that from that pasuk that the Oren is hidden in the Beis Hamikdash proper. It says Vayiru Sham Ad Yom Hazeh, v'chol hechad d'chsiv Ad Yom Hazeh la'olam hu. Right? How can you say that the Olam Hazeh means forever? It says Vayevusi Yoshev Yerushalayim Vayerishu Bnei Binyamin. When they captured Eretz Yisrael, Bnei Binyamin were not able to go ahead and drive them out. Vayesh Vayevusi in Bnei Binyamin Yerushalayim Ad Yom Hazeh. Mashma that the Yevusim are living with you Binyamin Ad Yom Hazeh, which be Mashma Ad Yom Hazeh that Binyamin never left Eretz Yisrael. They never left Yerushalayim. Just like the Oren never left because it's Ad Yom Hazeh. So the Bnei Binyamin never left because it's Ad Yom Hazeh. Yet we know, we're going to see in a second, that the land was desolate for 52 years. There was no one there. It says the Gemara, Vatanya Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Chamishu Shtayim Shana Lo Ovar Ish B'Yehuda. 52 years, no person passed through Yehuda, and obviously Binyamin as well. Shnemar Ala Horem Esa B'Chiv V'Nehi V'Al Nois Midbar Kino. Right, this lashon of weeping, crying, and the pastures. Ish Oiver, no person passed by. Like Shomu Kol Mikna, you didn't hear any sound of cattle. Eyofa Shemayim Behema, no do alacha from the sounds of the birds, and no behema. Behema begematria is Chamisha Shtayim heavy for 52 years. Behema is 52 in gematria. The Tanya, it says Rabbi Yosi Omer Sheva Shanim Niskayim Gafis Melech Beretz Yisrael. There was nevuah about 7 years of sulfur and salt in Eretz Yisrael. Remember Yochanan. My time with Rabbi Yosi, Asya Bris, he has a Gzer Shava, Ksiv Chacha, the Higbir Baris Larabim, Shavu Echad. He'll make a strong bris with the great ones for a period of 7 years. Right, they'll make a strong bris that this is in Daniel, passing in Daniel. Yes, the people of Bavel, and it says they left the bris of Hashem. Right. So in any case, you see bris, and you see that what that Binyamin did live. It says Ad Yom Hazeh. So how can you say that Binyamin? How can you say the Oren never left? We say it says Ad Yom Hazeh by Binyamin, and Mino ben Yamin left because the land was desolate for 52 years. It says we're Amalei Chachak Siv Sham. Over there by the Aron says Sham Adiyam Hazeh, the word Sham. Like initially we're Medayik on Adiyam Hazeh, now we're adding the diak from the word Sham. However, by Binyamin it doesn't say the word Sham. So Ul is trying to go ahead and save his pshat and say because there's Sham, therefore it's Nigna Sham in the Beis Hamikdash. Who doesn't mean forever? I'll show it's not true. He says, Mehem min b'nei Shimon holchu lahaseir anoshim chamesh meos. You have sons of Shimon, 500 men. They went to Haseir. Uplatya, Unaarya, Urafaya, Vuziel, Bnei Yishi, Beroisham, names of people. By Yaakov Sheres Haplaitul Amalek, they killed the remainder of Amalek that was there. V'yeshvu Sham Ada Yom Hazeh. It's mashma that Sham into this day. So if that's the case, but the Orim, when it says Sham Ada Yom Hazeh is still there, so the Bnei Shimon also should be in this place Ada Yom Hazeh. However, we all know Kfar Ola Sancher of Melech Asher, he came up. And what did he do? And the Bilbo Kolarotzos, he mixed up all the lands. He removed that. He removed the boundaries from all nations. So the Seyim, Shashesi, and he plundered all the Eitzreis, all the treasuries. So therefore, you see they're not there. So I says Sham. So the Chayra to Yufta, this is not Pshagan Ulis Pshat. When it says Sham Al Yom Hazeh. Okay, that doesn't mean the Oren wasn't Nignas there. It just means that what that is Raya is not a good Raya. Amrav Nachman Tana b'Chacham Ma'imrim. Aron belishkas dirim ha'isagad. So the Aron was hidden in the lishkas dira eitzim. In other words, we said there was a lishka. Well, and an incident that takes place, and again in Shkolim, where one of the kahanim that was there wanted to go ahead and point out an area of a plateau. One of the tiles was uneven, and he felt that it had been removed, and as a result, he died. And we'll see that as a result. Why? Because he was going to look at the Aron. We also learned that the Aron was in the Idera Eitzim. He was being misasek, he was busying himself, doing something. He saw on the floor the ritzbah, a stone that was different than the other ones. He was about to tell his friend about the stone until he died. Why? Because obviously Hashem didn't want to find the Aron. But at least you see that the Aron that was not a Nikla Babel, that was in the Beis Hamikdash proper. Again, according to Yoshiyahu hid it in a place that Shlomo HaMelech had prepared when he built the Bayis Rishon. According to this day, maybe not. Maybe it was just or maybe it was. I'm not sure, but it was. But it certainly wasn't the Beis Hamikdash. It says V'yada b'yichud shesham Aron gadnus. They knew for sure that the Aron was hidden there, or else the guy went to die suddenly. When it says Misasek, what is he doing? Misasek b'kardumacha. He was playing with a hatchet. I guess, and the hatchet landed in the area where he noticed the tile that was offset. Tana de Rabbi Shmuel, the Yeshiva Rabbi Shmuel, they learned a different version of the story. Shnei kahanim ba'alim mumim chayim masliim be'etzim. There were two bali kahanim ba'alim mumim who they were busy going ahead and taking the worms out of the eitzim, out of the wood. V'nishmat karduma shalach mehem v'naf l'sham. And an axe of one of them fell and it landed over there. V'yatsa eish v'achalasai. And the fire came out and it burnt up the axe. I looked up the Shkolim. The Yerushalmi seems to say that he took the axe and he hit it in order to put the blatter back into place, and then a fire came up and consumed the kohen and killed the kohen rather than the axe. The bottom line is they knew there that the Aron was there. Rabbi Yehuda Rami, Rabbi Yehuda has a stira. It says Vayirou Roshei Habadim. They saw the tips of the badim. That's mashma, you could see them. But it says you shouldn't be seen on the outside. So how can you see the bottom pushed up against the proiches? Okay, it's not near and vein and near. They can see, but they were seen, not seen. They pushed up, so you can see them pushing, but you don't see them literally. Tanya Navi Hachi Abaisa substantiates this pshat. They saw the heads of the bottom. I think that they couldn't slide the poles out of their way. They extended them. I think that to see them, they made a hole to push them through so you could see them. So they couldn't be seen from the outside. So how's it possible they can see and not be seen? They were pushed up and they were pushed against the proiches. Appear like the chest of a woman. So there's a Tosfos, a very nice Tosfos on Tzadik Ches on the base in the Sechta Menachos that says this is a nest. The fact that it was 20 by 20, the Aron didn't take up any space, the fact that these sticks could go ahead and protrude so far to go up against the Perechus is nothing short of a nest. Anytime anyone would see it, they say, look, the Kadosh Baruch Hu just loves us. Again, this lack of this amazing this amazingness that took place, this amazingness that took place, that they was able to see that. Okay, Rav Katina, Amar Rav Katina, B'Shosha HaYisrael Oilin L'Regel, when the people be Oilin L'Regel, Megolin Lehem Es HaProiches, they'd go ahead and roll up the Proiches. Now the half minute Gemara is that it's the two Proiches that during the Bayis Sheni that was separating the Heichel from the Kodesh Kodashim. And Umaran Lehem Es HaKruvim Shahayim Urim Zeh B'Zeh, they would show the Kruvim that they were embracing each other. But Ayman Lehem, they said, Rochi Baslan L'Fei HaMakam, look how Kodesh Baruch Hu loves you, the Chiba Zachar and the Keva, like the Chiba of the Zachar and the Keva. Like they love each other. Might be a very nice pshat that you see that when they had to separate the proiches, obviously, so you don't see the chiba, you don't see the nest of it, but when you saw a bigger nest, you saw them hugging each other. But both, you should never leave for a second the chiba of HaKadosh Baruch Hu for us. So Mela, right, that we know that they're pushing up against because they lahar chibaschem. Now, when you put it up, you didn't have that nest of them protruding. So you had to see them then holding each other to keep that chiba going. Master of Chista. Question: how is it possible to look at the Aron? It says in the end of my midbar, there was an artik, there was a sack. They would go ahead and put in the sack. They would put the Aron in. Why? Because you're not allowed to look at it. Like this is speaking about it. It's also to look at them when you go ahead and put them in. So you see, you can't see it. So how were they able to go ahead and show the oily regalim when they come up? How were they able to show them? Says the Gemara, Amrav Nachman, mashal a kala. It's a mashal to a kala. Calls manshi bebesavia. As long as she's in her father's house. Snua mibaila. Before she gets to her husband's house, but she's living by her father, then she's a big snua vis-a-vis her husband. Once she comes home to when she leaves her father's house and comes to the base baila, then ain't it snua mibaila. She's no longer snua, meaning she's more accustomed to her husband. So when we were in the midbar and we had to cover it up because we were like a kala in base on avio, we still never left. We never left the father's house, so we weren't liboy gospel. We weren't so accustomed to being it. Therefore, you couldn't see it. Mashen came once the bias was built, and liboy gospel. We were in the base baila, living with your husband. And then what? We had the ability to go ahead and look at the aron. Master Rav Chana bar Rav Katina Ma'isa b'kainecha shloim misasek. So you see, you can't see the aron. The reason he died is not to see the aron. So Amalei, this garsha karmet. What are you talking about? This is the second bias. This garsha, we've been sent out already. This garsha chosu l'chiba rishayna. When a woman is sent away and comes back, she goes back to the original status, like that of the midbar, where not liba gaspa. Therefore, you can look at the aron. Now the question is, how is it possible to go ahead and look at the aron? What bias are we speaking about? Bias rishon, bias sheni. Each one presents its own problem. As I told you, the Havamina is these two proiches. There wasn't a proiches in the Migdash Rishon. The Migdash Rishon, there was the Amatraxin, there was a wall. All B'yit, guys, as we're going to see in a second, there was a doorway in the wall, right? But right now, the Havamina, so right now, there was no proiches. Ella must be Migdash Sheni, Mihavi Kruvim. Migdash Sheni, there weren't any Kruvim because there was no Aron. We know that body was hidden. Lo'ilam b'Migdash Rishon. Speaking of Migdash Rishon, Umar Proiches, the Gemara gives a beautiful teretz. Proiches, the Bavi, it means the curtains of the entrances to the Ulam, to the Heichel, and of course to the Kachik Gadashim. The Amar of Zera, Amar Rav, Shleisha Asa Proiches, the Migdash, there were 13 curtains that is in the Bayis Sheni. Shiva connected Shiva Sharim, 7 connected Shiva Sharim, Shtayim Achas, the Piskal Shal Heichel, the Achas, the Piskal Shal Ulam. There was a Proiches by the Heichel, Proiches by the Ulam, that gives you 9. And Shtayim b'Devir, Shtayim b'Knegdim b'Aliyah, 2 in the opening of the Kodesh Kodashim, and 2 above in the chamber that was above, the total of 13. But the bottom line is that there was an opening. Rashi brings over here, Rashi says, V'yotzim b'Proiches, Ha'prusa Kneged Pesach Sheba Pesach, that was folded Kneged the opening. Right? Amatraxin, of the machitzas of the Amatraxin. By Pesach be'emtza Amatraxin, the opening was right in the middle. Haya b'Migdash Rishon. We discussed earlier exactly the Kohen Gadol. Did he enter from the south? Did he enter from the north? We spoke about Machlokas, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Meir, how it was folded. That was in the Bayis Sheni. Bayis Rishon, there was a wall, but where was the opening? It was parallel to the opening of the Heichel. The Heichel was parallel to Oichen of the Ulam. So if you took all the curtains away from that and you look directly in, you would be able to see the Aron. That's the first teretz. So it's not speaking about the proches, the 2 of the Bayis Sheni. We're speaking about the proches that was covering the opening, the doorway of the Amatraxin in the Bayis Rishon. And of course, in the Bayis Rishon, there was an Aron, and you'll be able to view the Kruvim. A second teretz. Racha Bayakov Amal Oilam, the Migdash Sheni, it's speaking the second Bayis. And Kruvim did Sursa Havikaime. The Kruvim on the walls, they still existed, meaning there was images on the wall that were great, that were of kruvim. And this happened that they were hugging each other. How do you know they were etched on the wall? The chsiv, it says, it's called kiras abayis meisiv kol kruvim b'simaris u'peturei tzitzis. He says the walls of the Beis Hamikdash, they were surrounded by all kinds of designs, kruvim, palm trees, flowers, b'tzipa zahav miyusha al-mechuka, and he overlaid them with gold. And uksiv kimar ish v'loyos. That is a man, I guess, joining another. My kamaz ish v'loyos amid beis ish hamuura v'loyos. It's like an ish muluya v'loyos, like a company hugging each other. Okay. Amrei Shlakish b'shoshin nichsu nachem lehechel, when the nachem entered the hechel, roi kruvim hamuurim sebezei, found the kruvim hugging each other. So they found either the first bias. Now, they couldn't have been the first bias. Well, according to the Daya that was Galus Labavel, then they could have been there. But the Chayra is speaking about the ones that were on the wall. And Haitzir l'shuk, they whittled them off the wall. They scraped them off the wall. They brought them out to the shuk for Amli Yisrael. Halalu sheberchosan bracha b'klalas and klala. This is the one that's a bracha and a klala yasuk b'dvar malalu. You are such a holy people. You who you bless are blessed. You who you curse are cursed. And you're involved in these intimate matters. A guy can't see kedusha and intimacy. It's all pleasure, but there's no kedusha in their intimacy. But the intimacy over here is the relationship with us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So it's Gavaldi Kasha. What's happening over here? The bias is being destroyed and they're hugging each other. The Gemara in Baba Basra Tzadik Tes says when we do the Ratzon HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then they hug each other. When not, they're separate. They turn away from each other. So now with the Churban bias is happening and they're hugging each other. Rav Chaim Shmulevitz says beautifully. At the time of the Churban, it was a terrible thing, a terrible Gezerah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Midas Adin is coming out. But we should all realize that, well, no, there's still the Kedusha of Klal Yisrael. There's still the aspect of Klal Yisrael that Hashem loves, that's symbolized by the Keruvim going ahead and hugging each other. Let's just finish up. Miyad, his zilum, he began to go ahead and be mezalzel them. Shnemar kol nechabdecha, his ziluah, all those who were pasuk in Enecha, kol nechabdecha, his ziluah, they debased kiro ervasa because they saw the erva. They saw the erva. It's an amazing, amazing thing. There was a question asked the other night by Dr. Hillel. Doctor said, how did they see? How did the Kohen Gadol see? So people wanted to say there was no roof, there was light. How did they see? So fascinating. The Rach here on the Omid base here brings a Yerushalmi that the Gemara is not quoting. It just brings it out of the blue. And I just noticed it, and I think it's Gavaldik. The Lashon, if you look at the Rach, it says, Mishanita la'arin, on the words Mishanita la'arin, Yerushalmi Tana. Until the Aron was taken, the Kohen Gadol was able to go in, and what did he see? From the Or of the Aron. The Aron gave off light, and that's how he was able to see. However, when the Aron was taken, Dak's question is a good question, and says, so Shami continues, when the Aron was taken, Megashe, she would have to hold nichnis along the wall. He couldn't see anything. He would have to hold and hold. I guess he had fire from the fire pan, so he had some type of be able to locate between the rock of the Evan Ashasiya. But again, it was Megashe, so you had to hold on to something and see going along. So it's very geschmack. So we have a teretz to, we said it's a kasha, and Baruch Hashem, we have a teretz to that kasha. Okay, next piece of Gemara is beyond my pay scale. It's discussing something that I'm sorry for not doing it justice. Says the Gemara. The pasuk says, "Ushasiya hoisa nikras," and the rock was called Shasiya. Tana shemimenu hushta ba'olam. From it, the world was what? Hushta olam, the world was founded. Tanan kimanda amar. Mishnah seems to go according that the world was founded in Yerushalayim, because the Evan Shasiya obviously in Yerushalayim. Mitzion from Yerushalayim, from Tzion nivra olam. The world was created. The Chsiv, the Tanan, it says, Rabbi Lezer Omer, olam meyam siusay nivra. The world was created from the middle. Shenemar, bitsekes afal amutzak or govim yidbaku, and they kind of took the dirt and put it together. Maybe Shua Omer olam and atstadim nivra was created from different sizes and was put together. Kilashelig yoyma heve aretz v'geshem matar v'geshem mitras uzay. Rabbi Yitzchak says a third shot. Evan Yorah HaKadosh Baruch Hu Bayami threw a yam into the sea, and from that I threw a rock into the sea, and from that rock, Mimenu Nishtas Oilam Shnemar Almo Adanecha Hatvo Oimo Yuri Evan Pinasa, right? Chacham Moimrim Mitzion Nivra Shnemar was created from Sion. Mizma la'asav kel kim Hashem, like the first lashon that was created from the tzion. It says Asaf, Hashem said, he called Ba'imim Tzion Michlala Yofe. From Tzion is the consummation of beauty. Mimenu Muchlo Yofu Shalolam. From it, the beauty of the world was consummated. It was the end of the world. Was still from there. Tanya, Rabbi Lezer, Omer, Elu Tol Shemayim, Varetz Bivaram. These Tol Shemayim was never created. B'Yoyim Asas Hashem Elokim Eretz B'Shemayim. Tol Shemayim B'Shemayim Nivru. The Tol Shemayim were created from Shemayim. Tol Aretz Me'aretz Nivru. They were created. The Tol Aretz were created from the Aretz. Chomoimim Eil ve'Elim Mitzion Nivru. The Shnema, they were both created from Yerushalayim. Mizmar Lasav Kel Elokim Hashem Diber V'Yikra Etz Mizrach Shemesh Ad Nevoyai. Ba'Omer Mitzion Michal Yofi Elokim Loifia. Mimenu Muchlo Yofi Shel Oilam. From Tzion, the beauty of the world was consummated. According to the first pshat that the Tol Shemayim from Aretz Shemayim, according to the Aretz, I have a mahalach. According to the Ramban Torah, there were two chayimim that were used to create the Shema, the Yesh Ma'ayin. One that was used to create the Shemayim, was used to create the Aretz. And from that, everything came. So it'd be very geschmack like that pshat. The Hiyuli that was used to create the Shemayim created the things in Shemayim, the sun, the moon, the stars, the planets, and the Yuli, the Hiyuli, the chayim that was used to create the Aretz. That was everything came from there. That would be the rest of this thing. I don't know. Have a great Shabbos, fellas.